All righty. Good day, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today for our Tiny House webinar. We have some amazing hosts and experts today. Our CEO of ECI Development, Mike Cobb, and from tinyhouse.com, we have Zach and Jason Francis. Great deal of information for you folks today on the tiny house movement globally and what we're doing in Latin America for ECI development. But before we get started, why don't you have these folks familiarize yourself with the Zoom platform? If you see that Q&A section there on your Zoom panel, kindly go ahead and let us know where you're coming in from the world today. We normally like for these sessions for folks to let us know where they're joining in from. So if you'd like, you can click on that Q&A section and let us know. Alrighty, we have Cheryl coming from Maui, Katie from Belize, Boden from Ukraine, Joshua from Mexico, June from Las Vegas, Christina from San Diego, Philip in Toronto, Jonathan in the USA, Christine from Florida and Wisconsin, Brooks in Vancouver. Looks like we have a really great group here of folks joining us from all over the world. We're definitely happy to have you folks join us today. Along with that Q&A section, so we're going to have some breakout sessions throughout the presentation today where you folks can ask your questions, and our fantastic hosts will get to some of those questions as you're adding them in the Q&A panel, and we'll have an amazing session with that. So with any further ado, Mike Cobb, why don't you lead us with today's session here?
Absolutely. Michael, thank you for getting us all on board today. Zach, Jason, great to have you guys. We've enjoyed some times together at some of the conferences and working together for a while now. And really, I'm just so happy you're here to talk about, some of the tiny house ideas and concepts that we're going to move into. As Michael Fuller said, we're going to do a kind of a mixed presentation. We're going to have some presentation, then a Q&A section. So the practice you've had to put in your location is great. Use that question section if you think of questions during the presentation. What we're going to do is we're going to do 2 or 3 questions at each breaking point, and then at the end we will answer any remaining and all remaining questions that folks have. So we've got a great group of people. Jason, Zach, thoughts before we get started?
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to be here. Like Mike was saying, we've loved just getting to know you, Mike, and your company, and everyone here with Michael and Shanae, and it's been a really fun journey, and centered around the things that I think all of us here love, which is tiny homes and freedom first lifestyle. And so we're really excited to dive in and see how we can help people achieve that for themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to be a part of it today. So.
Yeah, no, we're excited. And in fact, one of the things that we talked about in figuring out, what this webinar should be about, we ask, what you were seeing, what kinds of questions people were asking. And you mentioned that investment was one of the areas where you'd seen a lot of people asking about it, but not a lot of people addressing it very specifically. And so what we've done is we've put together a presentation along those lines for your folks and for a bunch of our folks who are with us tonight. So we're going to talk about the lifestyle. I like the freedom first concept. It's certainly very fundamental for our company and what we do, and for you all as well. And in fact, I just sent you an article recently, about just some of the crazy zoning stuff, the restrictions of freedom that really impede people's life choices. And one of the nice things about going overseas, which is where our company works, is we've removed ourselves from a lot of those crazy zoning restrictive laws and policies, and quite honestly, some of them aren't even laws and policies, as they're just arbitrary, and that makes it even worse, I think. So,
definitely,
yeah. Well, without further ado, let me jump in, and I'm really glad to have you guys, because I know some of the questions are going to be more industry specific, and you're going to have to jump in and help. If they're international in nature, I will, and if they're really a tough stumper, we're going to get Fuller back on to answer those. So he didn't know that, but
fair enough.
all right. Well, let's get started, and we'll kind of roll. This is us, ECI and Tiny House. We'll just get going here. We already talked about ourselves. By the way, the only thing I want to put on here is if you have any questions, or you see a type of material or a resource or something that we mentioned that you would like to learn more about, you would like to reach out and ask for something, the email address to hit is webinar@ecidevelopment.com. And then you can put in the subject line anything, or if it's longer, put it in the subject. We will make sure that those emails are responded to promptly, and you'll get the resources or the information that you're asking for. So webinar@ecidevelopment.com. Just make a note of that. This is obvious. This is a tiny house, tiny home audience, right? And so you guys already get this shift in the marketplace from these big, huge homes to something much, much different. And this happens to be our phase one at Grand Pacifica, which is our community in Nicaragua, to what we're building now, which are the tiny homes, oceanside and oceanfront homes. And they deliver an incredible lifestyle experience and for a fraction of the price. And that's really fundamentally a big part of it. And we talk about price, oceanfront homes, instead of millions of dollars, $399,000, ocean view homes from $120,000. So again, delivering a price point because of what the product is, and it meets all of our lifestyle considerations. I like to call this the remote revolution. This is incredible. And we've just now in the last 3 years seen an incredible shift in the number of people who thought, someday when I retire, that was what it was always, when I retire, I'm going to move to Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Belize, Panama, wherever it happens to be, Honduras, right? Because they want the lifestyle that location affords them. But now, because of the remote revolution, so many of us have the ability to work from home. And if home can be in Washington, Oregon, California, or Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, wherever it happens to be, home can also be in many places around the world. And this freedom that we now have for many people as workers lets us move to these locations much sooner, far ahead of retirement, begin to enjoy this lifestyle that we've always wanted and we thought we would have to wait for, but we don't have to wait anymore. This is a big one. And one of the elements, we'll talk a little bit more about it in terms of the investment, many of the remote revolution workforce, they are renters. Pay attention. They are renters. They need a place to rent because many of them are going one place for 3 months, 6 months, a year. They're going to pick up and go someplace new, right? They're going to move around some. They may ultimately pick a place and settle. But many, many, many of these remote workers, digital nomads, are truly nomadic, and they want a place to rent. This is an incredible opportunity for landlords to own a property that becomes a rental for this market segment. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Some statistics, again, you guys are already, a lot of this stuff we have in our general presentations, a definition of a tiny home, mini homes, things like that. Obviously delivering an incredible lifestyle with a lot less square footage, and then the rental market, right? This is really where the rubber meets the road for investors. We've put this up front because the first set of questions really are going to open up for some investment questions, and that's really what we want. Then we're going to talk about locations, we're going to talk about product, and then in the end, we're going to wrap it all back together and talk about how the products specifically, the locations specifically, tie into a great rental property. It doesn't have to be. I think maybe many of you on this call are also looking at it possibly as a vacation property and as a rental property when you're not there, or quite possibly some of you are looking for full-time residency. You plan to move overseas and live in a tiny home in a wonderful location and own that home. So again, there are lots of things going on here. We're going to touch all the various elements of it today. A big part of the reason to go tiny, is price, of course. We pay for a lot less square footage, but you know what? We use a lot less resources when we do that. If we're building 500, 600 square feet instead of 2,500 square feet, there's an incredible lessening of impact on the environment. We all know that, but it's important to reiterate it here. And when we do that, when we build a tiny home community, we can take and preserve large green spaces, as we've done at Grand Pacifica. We've created beautiful orchards. We've created gardening and farming space. And so the folks that become part of our neighborhoods, have the opportunity and are becoming, communal farmers, right? They're using this space together to grow the kinds of fruits and vegetables that they want to have, they want to eat, and they know the source of those products. So again, something very, very exciting. Form meets function, of course it does. We get that, right? Smart homes, it's so easy to wire a home today in such a way that it just makes it easy to live there. The technology is there. The nice thing is when you do it up front, you can really put the systems in place to allow it to happen seamlessly. You're not retrofitting, you're building it in from the ground up organically. So very, very important. Again, the different types of things, whether it's the refrigerator, lights, air conditioning, all of those things. By the way, the homes that we're building, the tiny homes we're building in our Grand Pacifica community are the AVA homes are 100% off grid. And so having smart technology to monitor your power systems, right? You have a beautiful solar system, you've got a battery bank, having the smart system to monitor that and maintain the ideal conditioning for your home is really important. So these things all go hand in glove. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go one more set because this ties into the investor, and it's just, I think, one or two slides, and then we'll get to the questions. But why are people buying property overseas? Diversification. If it's an investment, a lot of people are looking for diversification. They have all of their assets in the United States. Yes, maybe they own some BMW or Mercedes or Nestle stock or Toyota stock or something like that. And we think we've diversified because we've got foreign companies as part of our portfolio, but it's all in the United States. It's on the New York Stock Exchange, for example. And so one of the things that we've heard from so many people who invest overseas is that they really wanted something outside the United States. The asset itself is outside the United States. The ownership of that asset is outside their home country. It doesn't have to be the United States. We have folks from Vancouver, and I think I heard Ukraine, and somebody from Belize on here as well. So we've got folks, but if all of our assets are inside our home country, we're not diversified. And when we can own a hard asset, we can get title to a property, physical title to a property, we own that asset and we own it outside our home countries. That's true diversification. Very, very important to have some of our eggs in a different basket. Residency options for the people who are planning on living longer term, say 3 months or longer, being able to get a residency in another country. Very, very important consideration. And these are things that we have helped literally at this point, thousands of people obtain a residency outside their home country. So again, we have a group of folks that know how to do this, have done it, thousands of times at this point. I'm not sure if we have yeah, we do. I'll come back to path of progress later. It's an important concept in investing. But then this last one, the better quality of life. I lived as an expat. I moved to Nicaragua with my family in 2002. I lived there for 14 years. I understand the quality of life. It's phenomenal. The cost of living is much less. I've been the expat. We bring that kind of experience when we help others to do the same thing. This true paradox. We have this higher quality of life and it costs less, right? And I think the tiny house concept kind of fits here too, right? We have a house, we have all the elements of a home that we want. We have shelter, we have, cooking, we have, bathroom facilities, we have, bedroom, we have living rooms, we have all of the functionality, right? But it costs a lot less, and it costs a lot less to maintain, right? it's a quality of life that costs less. Well, when we move overseas, the other things, the food, the activities, the entertainment, all of that costs a lot less. And when we can actually eat organic fruits and vegetables, many of which we grow, others of which we purchase from the farmer down the road, or the fisherman that pulls his boat up on the beach, every morning and has his fish for sale, right? I mean, this is right out of the ocean. This is right out of the ground, organic foods. And they're 1/4 the price of the processed foods in the United States and Canada. So it's hard to imagine how you can have a higher quality of life that costs less, but you really, really can. These factors are driving people overseas. And now that people have permission from their boss to work from home, and home can be in one of these wonderful locations, we're seeing a lot more people move overseas. About 10%, 11% of US citizens are seriously considering it. 45% of Canadians plan to spend a month or more outside of Canada every year. It is about the tiny homes overseas. This idea of rental potential, of the flexibility to use it, to rent it when you're not there. And then obviously the importance of downsizing in so many ways. So we'll pause here. I don't know, Michael, if you're able to look at the questions and see what we have, and maybe 2 or 3 of them. And again, if we don't get to all of them, what we'll do is we'll kind of reserve them for the end as well. But let's look at any questions that people might have about investment properties, rental properties overseas, and then we'll start to talk about specific products and countries and locations in the next segment.
Absolutely. We do have an interesting question here, and I think folks, when they do hear the word tiny house or tiny home, the misconception might be that it's a very, very small space and there's nothing that you can put in there. So if you can speak to maybe what tiny homes are generally like, and that whole minimalist lifestyle, and for reserving your space for exactly what you need.
I do have a thought on that, but I'm going to punt this one across the United States to Zach or Jason. Why don't you come at this from I would say a sort of a concept answer, and then let me give sort of the international piece that layers on top of that.
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously when you live in a tiny house, there's very limited space inside of your home. And that's why one of our huge kind of things that we encourage when we're talking about living tiny is including kind of that outdoor space outside of your home into living tiny, that you don't want to just think of just, the square footage that you have within those 4 walls as your home. You kind of want to think of your entire space, your whole property outside of the home as well. And just like Jay and Andrews says here, there's often a place that either a small garage or a storage shed, or I know that a lot of the homes inside the EVA community have built-in storage and places along those lines. And
Yeah, I think that's good. I think for a lot of people, especially in the US, tiny home can easily mostly be identified with like a tiny house on wheels. So it's like extremely small, like a 8 by 20 foot rectangle. And those absolutely usually won't have a garage, and they're made for more mobile situations. But what we've come to terms with as far as the tiny house term is more of like a small home, in the sense of it could be 800 square feet, could be 300 square feet. And it's just, downsizing, that's obviously a relative term as well. And so really it's also a mindset thing, which I think we'll probably dive into later. But I think there's absolutely ways to have a tiny home and be able to have the space to have the hobbies and the storage to be able to place those hobby items within your house and not have to put those out in your yard or wherever it is. There's some really creative ways you can go about that. Like Zach said, the homes that we're talking about today, there's a lot of really cool storage integration.
Yeah, thank you. And you mentioned the outdoor space. I'll come to that in a second. The other thing that has been really refined very, very well by folks like you, who are true industry leaders and thought leaders, many years ago, who started really advocating and developing the tiny homes, is that you've developed very efficient use of space. I think so often big houses are just simply big, and the use of space is not particularly efficient. And so with a tiny home, and it goes up to about 600 square feet for the definition of tiny. Many of our AVA homes, for example, are 400 to 500 square feet. And that's the interior enclosed space. And that's where this idea of exterior space. So when I lived in Nicaragua with my family, literally, we would get up every morning. We would open up 3 sets of sliding glass doors onto our patio, no screens. And we literally lived inside, outside all day. But we spent a lot of time. We ate on our patio. We had kind of living room furniture, wicker kind of furniture out on the patio. It was covered, so it was in shade. And so we pretty much lived outside almost the entire day. And so, this idea of having outdoor space. So even if the enclosed space in one of these homes is, say, 400, 500 square feet, if you put a rooftop terrace and you put shade on it, now all of a sudden you've gone from, say, 500 to 1,000. And if you put on a porch, and you have the ability, maybe sliding doors in the front or whatever it is that open up to a porch, covered porch, you might add another 200 or 300 square feet of very usable space. And in the tropics, it really is nice weather year round. You want to be outside as we were as a family. So I think the efficiency into the space itself is the first thing. And then the second piece is that outside space becomes real livable space. And you don't need to pay for a whole lot of interior space that you're simply not going to use very often or at all in many cases. So, Michael, you have another question? I see the number counts going up, so I think some more questions may have come in.
Absolutely. A lot of questions are actually coming in about the specific communities and property types. So why don't we jump into that portion of the presentation here, and we can definitely get to some of those questions.
Absolutely. All right. So we'll keep going. All right. So the first community we're going to talk about today is our Gran Atlantida in Honduras. This is on the mainland of Honduras. You can see the beautiful mountains rising up just in the distance there. Beautiful Caribbean front property. Truly a spectacular place that folks are becoming more and more acquainted with now. Let's see. There we go. All right. The project itself, the community there has almost 2 miles of beachfront. It's beautiful white sand beach, as you saw, and it's very, very close to Roatan. And so from there, you can drive to Ceiba, and then from Ceiba, either catch the ferry across to Roatan or fly across for some of the best diving in the world. There you can see the location near La Ceiba, across from Utila and Roatan. Town of La Ceiba, and then the property itself. Again, just some shots of that. Beautiful, beautiful location. Again, great Caribbean waters. A site plan, and the nice thing that's happening here is that it's being developed in phases. And the reason phases are so important is, as someone, I've been a developer now for 26 years, and one of the lessons we've learned over time is just how to create true community. And community is a weird word, right? Community is one of those words that if we ask, everybody on this webinar to tell us their definition of community, like each of us would have a slightly different way of describing it, but we'd all kind of be describing the same thing, right? It's this very subjective thing, but we know it when we have it. And the reason we know it when we have it is that the marketplace objectifies this very subjective term called community. And so, when people are in a community, they enjoy it more, they feel it more, and the prices of property retain their property values much, much better inside a neighborhood that has community than just in a lot on the beach somewhere. So this is important to understand, and how a community is developed is fundamentally what produces true community. People being able to walk around, meet their fellow neighbors, spend some time at the beach or the clubhouse or doing some of the activities, because that's how you make new friends. And truly the friendships and peer relationships are the hallmark of community. In phase 1, ocean views, it's just a spectacular ownership opportunity here. Many of the homes now in phase 1, in fact, all the homes in phase 1 are sold. Phase 2, a few available. This would be something that if you'd like to receive some information, remember the email address, webinar@ecidevelopment.com. Love to send you something on the available properties in Honduras. Price points, again, very, very attractive. $109,000 up to $129,000. You can see the enclosed space on the perla on the left, right? You have the enclosed space on the first floor. That's the expensive part, so to speak. You've got covered, very usable space on the second floor, beautiful breezes, sea views, all of that. And again, it's fairly inexpensive. So you've doubled the size of your home and your usable space with not a whole lot of additional expense. And then the coral and then the Delphine, creating livable space, indoor air-conditioned livable space with bedrooms and other amenities. We have some floor plans. We're not going to spend a lot of time on these. If you're interested in seeing any of these in detail, please let us know. We'll send it to you. But you can see everything you need: living room, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, rooftop terrace. You will, trust me, if you own one of these homes, you will spend a lot of time upstairs, outdoors. Check out this home here with the big wide window openings to the outside. Again, creating that indoor outdoor space that becomes part of your living experience when you live in the tropics. And then the ability to get a true incredible second story bedroom, incredible views, balconies out with ocean views. Again, you're going to spend a lot of time outside when you live in the tropics. And then a 2-bedroom. This is something that we've seen a lot of folks become very interested in. In fact, families with children. We just had a conversation with a woman last week, my wife and I, who's considering moving overseas with her husband and 2 children, and they are looking at a 2-bedroom tiny home. It works for them. So again, this is the kind of opportunities that fit the bill for a lot of people. Nicaragua, we're going to move to a new country. Nicaragua is the place that I lived with my family, 14 years. When we moved there, we thought we would live there for 3 years. We took our 2-year-old daughter with us. We had another little daughter that came along, and we'd been there about 3.5 years. And my wife and I went out to dinner one night, and we talked about it. And we'd kept our home in the U.S. because we thought we were going to be there a short period of time. And we decided that we would stay in Nicaragua a while longer. We didn't really know what a while was, but a while was 11 more years. And so, we were there a total of 14 years. Nicaragua is an incredible country that you have to see it. You have to go there to absolutely appreciate the splendor of the country, the safety of the country, the beauty of the country, and just something that we highly recommend. It's right there in the heart of the Americas. It's actually closer than Costa Rica or Panama. So it's easy to get to, lots of new flights being added. Cost of living is truly right there. Extreme low cost of living is incredible. I mean, we had a bag of organic fruits and vegetables delivered to our home, a coffee sack. I mean, this is not came from a coffee plantation. They had, they raised fruits and vegetables. They also had their own farm, right? So we got meats and cheeses and all that free range and hormone free, but we got our bag of fruits and vegetables, coffee sack, delivered to our house every Tuesday for $8. Now, I don't know about you, but the last time I went down to Whole Foods to do a little grocery shopping, like 2 tomatoes were $8, right? And so it's insanely inexpensive. And the country is beautiful. The country is safe. Again, these stereotypes that we carry from the news media, 20, 30, 40 years ago, linger with us because we haven't heard a whole lot about Nicaragua. Again, a wonderful, wonderful country. This was something I skipped over earlier in the investment slide because I remembered we had this particular slide in the presentation, right? How I put the various countries or even parts of a country, because we have Costa Rica on here 3 times, right? The way I put these locations on this curve was I just said to myself, if someone from Des Moines, Iowa gets married this weekend on Saturday, where are they going on their honeymoon on Monday, right? Where are they going? You know what? Lots of them going to Cancun, Cabo San Lucas, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Ton of them going to Costa Rica, the Pacific side of Costa Rica. Not very many of them going to El Salvador, Honduras, or Nicaragua. They're just simply not popular countries. They're not popular, right? But the price of the real estate is so much less than it is in the popular countries that if we decide that we want to own in one of these countries because we like it, we appreciate it, the value of our asset over time as these countries become more and more popular in the generic sense, right, leads to more travelers paying higher average daily rates. So again, this is one element of investment that has to do with the location specifically and the popularity of that location. This is the country of Nicaragua and Honduras. You can see Managua is the capital of the country, and just southwest of Managua is the Grand Pacifica Resort Community. This is one of the very first tiny homes that was finished very, very recently. You can see in the background other homes that are still under construction. Our neighborhoods, we have 3.5 miles of beachfront property, 2,500 acres. We've got many different neighborhoods that make up our Grand Pacifica Resort Community. It paved road the whole way, closest ocean to the airport, to the international airport. A lot of reasons people are choosing Grand Pacifica to be their resort home in Nicaragua. This is our Ava community. These are about 80 of the tiny homes under construction right now. You can see solar panels on many of the roofs. At all homes there will be solar. The oceanfront homes will be hybrid. They'll be tied into solar and the electrical grid. But these Ava homes, these oceanfront homes on the left, 100% off the grid. So very, very exciting. Incredible lifestyle, lots and lots of young people, families with children. We do have retirees. We have the whole range. It's really a neat community, and it's a wonderful, fun group of people to be around, because trust me, if you're on this webinar, you have an adventurous spirit. If you're considering a tiny home, you have an adventurous spirit. If you're considering a tiny home overseas or any property overseas, you have an adventurous spirit. And when you're in proximity, physical proximity in a community with other people that share that same adventurous spirit, it's exciting, it's contagious, it's wonderful. And that's one of the things that truly I hear from many of our residents and our guests, that they just simply enjoy being with the other people at our resort communities. So Ava, we just showed some of those pictures of them under construction. They are almost sold out. We are, and again, this idea of phasing, right? This idea of phasing to get, we have 100 homes in the phase 1 and phase 2. We are in the last push. We want to get the last home so that we're finished building in this neighborhood, right? We want to have it 100% complete, turn it over to the residents, and let them have 100 beautiful homes and a beautiful community right there. Two things that we're doing. We've dropped the prices on each of the homes, but the other thing, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but if people have questions and would like to learn more about it, we're actually bundling 1/4 acre of teak, a teak plantation parcel, with the home. Let me tell you why that's interesting. We've planted several hundred acres of teak. We're doing a massive reforestation of big parts of our Grand Pacifica project. I started my very first teak plantation in Panama 23 years ago now, right? That was my first 100 acres of teak, and those trees are 3-4 years away from harvest. They're giant, beautiful teak trees. Teak is an incredibly valuable lumber asset. And so we're reforesting big chunks of our Grand Pacifica property right now, and we are bundling with each of these homes 1/4 acre of teak. It's newborn, so it's baby teak. It might be 1 year old, something like that, 1 or 2 years old. It has a 25-year growth cycle, and at the end of 25 years, at today's harvest price, that teak will be worth somewhere around $90,000 to $95,000. That's today's teak price, right? And we're not adding inflation, none of the other things. So it's an incredible opportunity to own 1/4 acre of teak and a beautiful tiny home at the same time. These are some of the models, the Perico. This is a one floor model that has the loft up top for the bedroom. Total, let's see, interior area, there it is, 258 square feet. The external area is actually 3 times bigger, but you end up with about 900 square feet of livable space. Design is super efficient. That's the key. Super efficient design. Every bit of the space is used very, very well. Again, a home here with a giant rooftop terrace. Again, very efficient living space. You have everything you need on the first floor, come up to the second floor, and a beautiful terrace, over 900 square feet of living space. This is a 2-bedroom model, and I'm sorry, this is a 1-bedroom model with the living room, kitchen, dining downstairs, a loft bedroom above, and a total living area of 600 and a little over 600 square feet. The Macaw is the 2-bedroom model with a balcony both up and down, a little over 1,000 square feet of livable space. Okay, over 1,000 square feet of livable, usable space in this home, 2-bedroom. This is the master plan. Where you can see the yellow are the homes that are sold. We have some green available in phase 1. These were some homes that we started. We wanted to fill it in so we weren't building during while people were living there. So those homes are in various stages of completion, almost complete actually in some cases. So if you're looking to own a home that's actually ready to go in the next few months, that would be something that you'd want to look at. Phase 2 to the right. Again, the green are available, some great locations. By the way, every one of these homes, all 100 of these homes are ocean view, which is spectacular. So, and there's the proximity to the ocean. As you can see, every home has an incredible ocean view. The ocean front homes, they're available as well, starting at $399,000, and then the Ava ocean view homes as well. So, Michael, I think that kind of wraps us up for that segment. And if you've got folks with questions, we'll take them right now.
Absolutely. One question coming in here is asking, is there a way to use a stock portfolio that can currently be liquidated as collateral to purchase a tiny home?
Yeah, in fact, our very last slide, we kind of talk about some of the financing options, if it's okay, and we'll hold that question until the end, and we'll kind of tie it into financing questions at that point. But that's a great question. Thank you. Remember to bring that one back, okay?
Absolutely. Another question so we did showcase some of the site maps here for both the Grand Atlantida and the Eva community. So this question is asking about if there are future developments near the beach and if there will be any high rises.
Great question. So in this particular area of Grand Pacific, and no, this is our single family home area. So all of the homes are single family. There may be some low rise condominiums between the Ava community and the original San Diego Viejo behind Santa Barbara. Those would be 3 to 4 stories. Our real condo community is located in the heart of our phase 1, which is San Diego Viejo. It's about 3/4 of a mile, just 3/4 of a mile south of where the Ava homes are. But in the Ava, Bella, and Santa Barbara neighborhoods adjacent, those will all be single family homes.
We do have 2 questions here talking about long-term rental and what that would look like.
Yeah, great question. The opportunity for rental income so I would say in sort of the whole digital nomad remote revolution kind of consumer, right? Or the retiree, pre-retiree. Long-term rental is truly, in my opinion, and people can differ on that. I like long-term rental the best. It's a sure, steady income. You might make more nightly, and I think we do a lot of nightly rentals for folks. I personally I'm a very conservative investor. I know that sounds crazy because I work in Nicaragua and Honduras and Belize, and people shake their head and go, you are not conservative. How can you call yourself conservative? But I really am. I personally prefer a long-term rental over the nightly. I might make more in the nightly. In fact, I probably would on many occasions make more, but having that predictable income, month after month after month with a long-term renter, to me is a much more satisfying investment option. And truly, with the number of digital nomads and remote workers that we're seeing and we're serving, that this is probably the bigger of the two opportunities in the next, I don't know, 2 to 3 years. These things change. I mean, trends change, and my opinion of the investment methodology I would choose will change with the marketplace. But today, yeah, it's 3 month to 1 year leases for people who are those remote workers looking for that experience of living overseas for some extended period of time. So that's where I would be looking, I think, if it were me putting something into a rental program.
And speaking of rental programs, Mike, there's a question here: who maintains the home and help for renting? Can you talk about what we do at ECI with property management?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a property management division. We have a hospitality division, and they also handle property management. So there's really two elements. Some of our property owners really only want property management. They don't rent their homes. It's their home. We'll take care of it when they're not there, mow the grass, go inside it once a week and just wipe things down or whatever, and just check on the house, right? So we provide that service. But most people, when they're not there, want some form of rental, whether it's nightly or long-term. And so, yes, we have a team, our hospitality group, that takes care of all of the functionality of the rentals. We can help place the rentals. We do help place most of the rentals. And then we work with the owners and the tenants to make sure that the home's in great shape. The tenants are getting what they expect. They pay their rent. The owners get their rent. We take care of all the finances. We do the deposits. We do the accounting. So we'll take care of all of that for an owner if they elect to have us do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Let's jump into the final section here, and we can get to some more questions at the end. Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, this is the final slide, I think, isn't it, Michael? And then we go to our final questions. So,
correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, many different ways to make this affordable, and look, $150,000. I mean, that's a lot of money, no matter how you shake it, right? And so, one of the things that we've really paid attention to is, how do we help folks own the property that they want to own? Either it's a lifestyle property, they're going to use it, vacation in it, live in it, or if it's an investment property. And so what we've done is we've set up staged payments during construction. Somebody says, I want one of these homes, $2,500 deposit holds it for you. When we break ground, then we have 50% up front, and then 20%, then 20%, and 10% when we hand you the keys. So it staggers the payment over about 10 to 12 months. That's about the cycle to build a new home. We got slammed. I mean, when we first opened up our tiny homes, we took orders for about 60, I think, in about a month, maybe 6 weeks. And we just were not prepared to build that number. And so the timelines have drug out on the first set of homes. The new homes that we've started and we're building from, since I would say April, those are on track for somewhere around a 10 to 12 month build. And so that's the build time. So we stagger the payments to help folks, work that out, and they understand when those payments would come due. We do work with a bank in Belize, and they offer financing. And so we help the bank. We take a bunch of money back, right? The bank will loan 50%, 50% loan to value. We, ECI, the developer, will take another up to 30%. So somebody can come to the table with 20% of the value of the home and put that down. and obtain 80% financing, up to 80% financing. So that is available to, again, make it achievable for so many more people who can do that. We do accept cryptocurrencies. Anything that the Coinbase wallet or the BitPay wallet will take, we will take. And we've done maybe, I don't know, 13, 14% of our transactions have been in crypto. In the tiny home community, that number's probably more like 25, 30%. So yeah, probably between a quarter and a third of the transactions in our tiny home community have been crypto or partially crypto transactions. And we like that. I mean, we're very bullish on crypto. I know crypto's down right now, but one of the things that we're doing is we've worked a partnership with a couple groups that will actually let you borrow against your crypto. I know the person asking about borrowing against stocks, and we'll come to that in a minute, but we actually have two companies that will lend against crypto as collateral. And so, crypto's down right now. So, you don't want to sell it, right? You can borrow against it. And as, crypto goes back up, obviously the value of that crypto goes up. You can use the enhanced value to pay down your loan, pay off your loan, or let it ride, whatever you want to do. But we're seeing a lot of folks interested in borrowing against their crypto at this moment. We do accept gold and other precious metals as payment for homes as well. We have a lot of folks that have precious metals and want to be able to use those assets in the acquisition of a home, and so we will accept precious metals in that case. And the last one on this slide, anyway, and I just want to be really, really clear about this: self-directed IRA is absolutely a tremendous way to own an investment property overseas, and I need to be very clear on this, that it is an investment property. If you own the property inside your self-directed IRA, you may not use it at all, ever. That's a prohibited transaction. And so it's an investment. And so we do have maybe 20% of our property owners have invested in their property with their self-directed IRA. And we have several companies that are custodians that we can refer you to. If you have a traditional IRA at Charles Schwab or Fidelity, and you want to roll some of that money out into a self-directed IRA, 2 or 3 companies that we've worked with over the years will give you their names and contacts. You reach out to them, you roll the money out of your traditional IRA, 401k, whatever it happens to be, and move it into a self-directed IRA. And at that point, that self-directed IRA can make the investment in a property. Again, very clear, it's an investment, you can't use it. But it is a great way to diversify some of your investment holdings. And so, again, about 20% of the folks have done that. Let me jump and answer the question that the person asked a moment ago about using stocks and bonds as collateral. That's a very specific question. It would depend upon the type of stocks, where they were held, and whether the custodial entity would legally allow the bank, in this case, Key Bank, to bind those assets as collateral. If it's a standard brokerage, it's fairly simple process. So the answer would be yes. The thing about stocks are they move, right? And so the bank would have to look at the what types of stocks, what kind of volatility, and what the loan to value against the stocks would be, in addition to the loan to value against the property itself. And so there's going to be a ratio of some kind that the folks in the loan department at the bank will work out. But the simple answer is probably yes. And if you would just send an email, again, webinar@ecidevelopment.com, send a note just in the subject line, stocks as collateral for tiny home or something like that. We will get you introduced to the folks at the bank. You and they can have a conversation again about what types of stocks and things like that, to see if that's possible. But my answer would be probably yes. So, all right. And now we are truly at the end of the slide presentation, Michael. And, we've got plenty of time for Q&A. And in fact, if I stop sharing, can we get Zach and Jason back up? Did that work? I think. Yeah, there we go. All right.
Yes.
Here we are.
All right. Super.
Awesome. So a question that came in is, can you talk about what are you seeing in the real estate space of why folks are looking at tiny homes as an investment opportunity for potential passive income?
Yeah, I mean, Zach, Jason, why don't you guys have a crack at that? I think, we all have sort of a different thought, but.
Yeah, absolutely. I think tiny homes, tiny spaces, obviously it also makes sense for long-term living as well. But for short-term living, it's got all the amenities, it's got everything that you need within the space. And when you're renting a house somewhere, you don't want to be paying a lot of extra, just for for 1,500, for 2,500 square foot house somewhere, when in reality, you're only going to use, 500 square feet of the space. The kitchen doesn't have to be this massive kitchen. You're not preparing a Thanksgiving meal there or anything along those lines. So a tiny home makes perfect sense for somebody who's coming in to rent the space. It also makes a lot of sense for the investor, the person who's offering it for rent as well, because then they don't have to go and buy the 2,500 square foot house and just go out to rent it. And they generally stay occupied a lot more. That's kind of been what we've found, is that people are more willing to pay that lower price point because it's going to be lower than the 2,500 square foot home, but it's also going to be more per square foot than the 2,500 square foot home. So that's kind of what I have to say on that. So
yeah, I think that touches on most of the things I would say too. Is just for investors, the barrier of entry is just so much lesser. So you could, like Mike was saying, how often can you go buy an oceanfront house for 150 grand, like in this beautiful location, amazing setup resort? I mean, that just opens up the doors to so many new investors. So I think that's a huge part of it. And then, as far as the nightly rental side, I mean, I think we could all say that just the experience you get from staying in really unique properties and unique homes. And typically when you build a small home, you have the resources to put into it to do it a little more unique and a little more special. So you get that extra experience as a guest if you're looking to stay in this place. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
And I think you guys hit the nail right on the head. It's sort of the ratio between the acquisition price of the property and what you can get for rental income, long-term or short-term. And, I always say it this way, somebody who's renting a property really wants a nice place to sleep, eat, go to the bathroom, cook their food, hang out. And, if you can do that with, 500 enclosed and, 500 terrace, right? You got 1,000 square feet, right? But you are the owner who acquires that asset. You're only really paying for, you're paying for a little bit on the outside space, but the expense of the enclosed space is really where the cost of a home is. So you're paying for 500 enclosed, maybe 500 covered, say. So your acquisition cost is correspondingly a lot less than buying 1,000 square foot enclosed or 1,500, 2,000, whatever it is, right? But your rental income, when I go to stay somewhere in a hotel room, basically I want a bed and a shower. That's what I want, right? And if I'm renting a home long term, I want a place that I can hang out and and cook my meals and do those things. And so the tiny house delivers that lifestyle need, right? The needs of the lifestyle in a much smaller, efficient space. And if the rent for me is $100, $200 less than the bigger house, or $500 less or $1,000 less. I mean, I'm not even sure. I should know, and in fact, we can find out for you if you really want to know. What do some of the oceanfront homes at Grand Pacifica rent for? These are big homes. I mean, these are 3,500 square feet oceanfront homes and 2,500 square foot ocean view homes. What do they rent for, right? And I think you'll see very quickly that with a tiny home ocean view or one of the Bella homes ocean front, you're going to be so much more price competitive and still get the kind of yield that you would want to get as an investor, because your acquisition cost is just simply so much less. But the rental price is correspondingly almost the same as another home. So anyway, that really is the leverage factor in there that I think makes it exciting.
Another question here is talking about titling and ownership in Latin America.
Yep.
Can shed some light on that?
Yeah, great question. And I don't know who asked it, but thank you for asking. We probably should have had something in the presentation about that. Our company, we only work where the owner can get fee simple title if it's English common law, which is Belize, or escritura publica, public title in civil law countries. There are many countries where there are exclusion zones. Mexico has the fideicomiso. You can't own property along the coastline. Other countries have certain areas. Panama has some areas that are rights of possession property. It's not really titled. So everything that we've talked about tonight and everything we as a company deliver has public title, whether it's fee simple in an English common law or escritura publica. So you own it, it's yours, and you have title to the property. And it's whole ownership too, by the way. You own 100% of the asset. So that's important as well.
Thank you, Mike. Some folks, and we can definitely share the site maps after the presentation here so that folks can see what's available. But can you talk about the neighboring communities or what we have on some of the sites in terms of restaurants, recreation, things to do, apart from living in your specific tiny home?
Sure. So, at Grand Pacifica, which is our most developed community, we have a 9-hole golf course that's open year-round, playable. We have tennis courts. We have a soccer field. We have 2 restaurants on site. One is oceanfront with a beautiful oceanfront bar, infinity pool. We have a clubhouse that ties into the tennis courts and the golf course. We have another resort property that's looking at putting in a small restaurant very near the Ava community. There'll be a clubhouse there as well. So a lot of amenities, a lot of activities, horseback riding, a ton of folks actually engaged now in working in the community. We helped actually set up a Rotary Club at Grand Pacifica. And so a lot of our residents are members of the Rotary Club, and 2-3 days a week, they're out in the community doing wonderful work to help folks that live in the neighborhoods around Grand Pacifica. So in fact, right now, I think is turtle season. We have a whole bunch of residents patrolling the beaches at night to keep the poachers from coming and getting the eggs, the turtle eggs, which they will take and sell. If we can protect them, then we dig them up, we move them just into our property. We have a turtle hatchery. 45 days from now, there'll be these big hatchings and turtle release parties and things like that. So tons of things to do. We have hiking trails, biking trails, horseback riding trails. We have bees on the property. A couple of our owners have gotten very excited in beekeeping. So I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things to do, but traditional activities, pool, golf, tennis, workout facility, gymnasium, workout facilities. So all the, I would say the kind of the normal stuff, but then, just some other things that like, wow, I mean, just turtle, go protect the turtles. It's seasonal. It's about 5-6 months out of the year, but that's a big deal for a lot of folks. They're really engaged in that. And it's exciting to see it. And then the Rotary stuff is year round, of course. And
And surfing too, right?
Oh, thank you. And surfing. Yes. Thank you, guys. Yes. 2 of the best surf breaks in Nicaragua. And they say that one of them is one of the top 10 surf breaks in Central America. It's called the Meat Grinder. And Kelly Slater has done some video there. Other folks as well. We've had a lot of the big celebrity surfers come and stay and surf the Meat Grinder specifically. But right out in front of the Ava community is the swimming beach, the Azuchillo Beach. And that's where my wife and daughters and I hung out. That's where my daughters learned to surf, actually. And then there's a great beach break, maybe about 300-400 yards to the right of the beach, right in front of Ava. But spectacular swimming, bodyboarding, just, if you like to body surf, the beach right out in front of Ava is where we used to spend a lot of time on that beach as a family. And literally you can walk out 100 yards and the water's chest high. But what that means is these giant Pacific Ocean waves, they break 100, 150 yards out, and they're giant. I mean, they're 6-8 foot waves, but the water's, whatever. I mean, it's over your head at that point, but you can swim out there and body surf some of these waves for 50, 60, 70 yards. I mean, it's an incredible ride because it's sandy bottom. And so we've had a lot of fun there, but thank you guys for the surfing. Surfing.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we're both surfers. We love to surf, so that's a huge draw to us. But I mean, outside of like our own personal interests, I'm sure there's some people that don't surf here as well. But that's something that you definitely look for in investments as well. Is like these outside activities that will draw in
Yes.
people year round, or at least have a couple different activities that are both seasonal and different times. And so that's a huge one, I think, for building out an investment portfolio.
It is, and the surfers become a very very powerful nightly occupancy demographic. So that is a demographic that would feed into the nightly business as opposed to the long term. You're absolutely right about that. Yep.
Very cool.
Awesome. One last question here, and I do want to mention for all of the unanswered questions, we will have a property consultant reach out to you folks to get in touch on some specific details, or if you'd like to reach out to us at webinar at ECI Development with any questions not asked today, we'll definitely answer those for you all. But the last question here, on second residency, can we talk about some of the residency options for folks looking to invest overseas?
Yeah, and each country's different. I'll just stay with our Grand Pacifica community because it's the one I'm most familiar with. When you make the investment in a home, and I think you have to put at least $30,000 down. So if it's a $120,000 home, 20% doesn't quite get you there. But with a $30,000 investment minimum, you qualify for the investor's residency in Nicaragua. And so that becomes a very, very easy way to get a permanent residency, which means you can literally live there for as long as you want. It's a permanent residency. The other residency that's available is their retiree, their pensionado visa, and that's also available. I can't remember the age. You have to be a little bit older to have that as a retiree, of course. But the investor residency and the pensionado are the two residencies that really cover almost every need for somebody who wants to own a tiny home at Grand Pacifica.
And is there an amount of time, like for the investor, once you invest that capital up front, what's the I guess the timeline of that?
6 months to a year to get your formal residency paperwork. It drags out a little bit. But during that process, if you're in the application process, you can go to the immigration office. They actually have one in one of the malls, which makes it a lot easier than going to the big government office.
Sure.
And they will stamp your passport with another 90 days because you're in process to actually get your physical residency card. But that can take 6 months to a year.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, I was maybe even expecting more. So that's not too bad as far as I was concerned. Yeah.
And that's it. And there's no delay in starting it. It's just basically the process takes 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing that again, our property consultants are also our residency consultants. And the thing that I would counsel anybody thinking about a residency to do is mention that up front, because some of the paperwork, you can actually start to pull together and move kind of in advance of moving there. Because look, they're going to ask for things like, an FBI or a national, I don't know what it is in Canada, but whatever the equivalent of the FBI in Canada is, right? You're going to need to get bank statements. You're going to have everything notarized, and utility bills, and on and on and on. You're going to have just so much stuff that it's not so much stuff, but it's a lot of paperwork, birth certificates, marriage certificates, right? And so this is all the kind of stuff that you're going to want to figure out and do up front, so that you get it all together. And then, it's all kind of time stamped. I mean, most of it has like a 60-day window. So you take it all at the same time, get it all notarized the same day, you FedEx it all in one thing. And so, but if you're thinking about residency, please mention that early in the process and let our property consultant, residency consultants really help with that process. Again, we've literally helped over 1,000 people get residency in either Panama, Belize, Nicaragua over the years. We're very familiar with it, and we can help make it go as smooth as it can go. That's the qualifier. You're dealing with bureaucracy, but again, the experience matters, and we've got a great team of people that can make it happen.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that you guys are there to support the whole process, and good things take time anyway. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I like it.
Well,
Awesome.
Jason, any final thoughts? Really, thank you for being a part of this and being a part of everything we're doing. Really excited that we're able to help serve a lot of your folks over the past few years, and I hope that we had a great turnout tonight and a great response. So hopefully a bunch of other folks will decide that this is something they want to do too. But any last thoughts?
Yeah, man, we can't wait to come down and visit the different properties and whatnot. I know we've talked about putting together a little kind of group gathering, organizing with a handful of people to all go down there at the same time. So yeah, if anybody's interested in that, like reach out and whatnot. We'd love to make that happen. We have Jason has a baby on the way soon, so it'd have to be a little bit outside of that. But at some point in time, we're gonna make that happen. So
well, good. I was going to tease you and say you keep having kids that get in the way, but
I know, pushing our trips off a little bit here.
Yeah. Hey, but let me just say, I am a newly empty nester. When my daughter left and went to school a couple weeks, about 3-4 weeks ago now. Enjoy every moment, boy. I'll tell you, that's
absolutely.
That's a tough one. Watch your youngest go, and you're just like, wow.
Where did the time go? I'm sure. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thanks for having us. It was a pleasure. Thanks for everyone being here. And like Michael was saying, it sounds like they're going to follow up with some answers to some of these questions that didn't get answered. Sorry, we ran out of time, but you guys are very engaging. Love all the questions we saw in there. So.
Terrific. Yeah. Thanks again, guys. Michael, any last thoughts or any housekeeping stuff we need to do?
Absolutely. So a copy of the recording will be sent off to everybody on the line here and for folks who have registered. So definitely look out for that in your email box before the end of today or early morning tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world. And we will get you those questions answered. Thank you all for joining us today. And thanks, Mike and Zach and Jason.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, y'all. We really appreciate being a part of it. So
absolutely. All right. See you, everybody.
All right, folks.
Yes.
Take care.